Welcome to the deep dive. We're tackling a topic that's, well, kind of crucial for anyone in a relationship or honestly, just navigating life in general.
Mm.
Compromise.
Yeah, compromise, right. It's funny because so many people think of compromise as this negative thing, like someone's always losing out.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like you're giving up something you want and, I don't know, just kind of settling.
But true compromise, it's not about that at all. It's more like
Like a team effort.
yeah, a team effort, more like a pact even.
Ooh, I like that. A pact.
Yeah, so you're both, committed to understanding each other, adapting, supporting each other, but in a way that respects both people, you and your partner and the relationship itself.
So it's not about one person winning and the other losing. It's more about finding a solution where everyone feels heard and respected.
Exactly. It's about making sure that the relationship thrives, that it grows stronger. Relationships, they take effort. They're not just these static things that just sort of happen.
So true. They need to be nurtured, right? Like a plant. You can't just expect it to flourish without, giving it some water and sunlight.
Right, right. Exactly. And that's where compromise comes in. It's like that constant maintenance, that fine tuning that keeps everything running smoothly like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. And it prevents those little bumps in the road from turning into like major crashes.
Totally.
So even those small everyday compromises, they can really make a difference in the long run.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Every time you compromise, even in a small way, you're basically saying to your partner, hey, I hear you. I value you. I'm willing to adjust a little to make this work for us.
It's like depositing a little bit of trust into the relationship bank, right? And over time, that really adds up.
It really does.
Okay, so we've established that compromise is a good thing, like essential for a healthy relationship. But I imagine there's a flip side to this, right?
Oh, yeah.
When does compromise become like less about we and more about one person constantly giving in?
Ah, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
It is. Because, we don't want to end up in a situation where one person is always sacrificing their needs for the sake of the relationship. That's not healthy either.
No, absolutely not. There's definitely a line between healthy compromise and what we might call um, unhealthy sacrifice.
Unhealthy sacrifice, yeah. Like you're giving up something so fundamental to who you are just to please your partner.
Exactly. I was reading about this woman, Ava. She kept giving up things that were important to her,
Mm.
dream house, even her desire for a pet, all to make her partner happy.
Oh, that's so sad to feel like you have to give up those core parts of yourself.
It is, it's sad. And it didn't end well for her. It created a lot of resentment, and she started to feel like she was losing herself in the relationship.
But she was disappearing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it's really important to be aware of those red flags,
Yeah,
the signs that you might be slipping into that unhealthy sacrifice territory.
absolutely. What are some of those red flags? Like, how do we know if we're crossing that line?
Well, resentment is a big one. If you find yourself, feeling resentful like all the time, like you're not being heard, it's time to pause and reevaluate.
So those feelings, those negative feelings,
Yeah.
they're trying to tell us something, right?
Yeah.
Like a little alarm bell going off in our heads.
Yeah, they are. And another red flag is this pattern of avoidance, where one person's always giving in just to avoid conflict.
So it seems like being in tune with our emotions is really important. Like paying attention to those feelings of resentment, discomfort, even that sense of like shrinking or disappearing that you mentioned.
Absolutely. Our emotions are they're like our internal compass.
I like that, an internal compass.
Yeah, they can help us navigate those tricky situations and make sure we're staying true to ourselves while also, nurturing the relationship.
Okay, all of this makes so much sense. It's like we're laying the groundwork for understanding what healthy compromise really looks like. But let's get down to brass tacks here. Do you have any real life examples
For sure, yeah.
of couples who managed to navigate some tricky situations through healthy compromise?
Yeah, absolutely. Like stories that might give our listeners some inspiration, for sure. One that comes to mind is this couple, Joan and Peter. They were high school sweethearts, both super ambitious, but they had different university aspirations.
That's interesting. So like different dreams and goals for their future.
Yeah, exactly. Joan, she dreamed of going to this top art school, really prestigious. And Peter, he was set on this big university, but it was known for its engineering program.
Oh, wow. So they were kind of on different paths.
Yeah, they were. So it presented a real challenge for them, right? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. How did they find a solution?
Well, they got creative. They both applied to their dream schools, but
Yeah.
they also explored options for bridging the distance.
So they didn't just give up on their individual dreams. They tried to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, yeah. And in the end, Joan ended up going to her art school for the first 2 years anyway. And Peter, he went to a community college nearby,
Okay.
and then he transferred to his university, which wasn't too far from Joan's art school.
So they were able to like kind of stagger their plans a little bit to stay close to each other.
It did, yeah. And I think, it's a great example of how compromise, it isn't always about finding that exact middle ground. It's about finding a path that allows both partners to move forward, but in a way that feels good, in a way that feels fair and respectful.
Yeah. It's like finding that balance between individual dreams and the shared dream of being together. Right?
Exactly.
And it's also a reminder that sometimes those initial roadblocks, they can lead to even better solutions if you're willing to be a little flexible and work together.
Absolutely. It's all about teamwork.
So we've seen how compromise can help couples navigate big life decisions, like education choices.
Right.
But what about those differences that run even deeper, like religious beliefs?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one, right?
Peace.
I was reading about this couple, Maria and Ali.
Okay.
She's Catholic, he's Muslim. And, instead of letting their religious differences become this source of tension like you see so often,
Right.
they decided to learn from each other.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Like instead of seeing it as a barrier, they saw it as an opportunity to grow.
Exactly. They went to each other's religious services, they shared in those traditions, and they created a space where both of their faiths could be respected and celebrated.
That's beautiful. It shows that compromise can actually deepen understanding and create this richer, more vibrant relationship, right?
It does, yeah. And, they didn't try to change each other, which I think is so important. They chose to grow together through those differences, not in spite of them.
So it's about finding that common ground, that shared humanity that transcends those differences, right?
Exactly. And it takes effort. It requires a conscious choice to move beyond those assumptions and embrace the beauty of those different perspectives.
All of this has been so inspiring. It's clear that healthy compromise is possible, even in the face of what seem like major challenges.
Yeah.
But I'm sure our listener is wondering, how do we actually do this?
Yeah.
What are the practical steps to becoming like a master compromiser?
Well, the first step is recognizing that it is a skill. Like it's something you can learn and get better at with practice.
It's like, learning a new dance or something like that. You got to figure out the steps, and find that rhythm together.
Exactly. It's like it takes time, it takes patience, and you got to be willing to learn from those missteps. You're going to stumble a bit at first.
Oh, for sure. Nobody's perfect right out of the gate.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so let's break down those steps. What are some like practical tips, that couples can use to get better at this whole compromise dance?
Well, I think the foundation of any good dance is communication.
Right. Yeah. If you're not talking to each other, you're going to be stepping all over each other's toes.
Exactly. So step one is creating that safe space where you both feel comfortable expressing your needs and expectations without, fear of judgment.
Yeah, it's like setting the stage for a good conversation, Make sure the lighting is right, the music is soothing, no one's lurking in the wings, ready to criticize your every move.
I love that. That's a great visual. And once you've set the stage, so to speak, the next step is learning to really listen.
Okay, listening.
Yeah, and I don't mean, just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly hearing and understanding your partner's perspective, even if, you don't necessarily agree with it.
That's where empathy comes in, right? Trying to see the world through their eyes.
Yeah.
To understand why something might be so important to them, even if, to you it seems kind of, well, kind of small or whatever.
Exactly. Empathy it's like that magic ingredient that transforms a conversation from this battle of wills into this genuine exploration of each other's inner worlds.
I love that. So we're not trying to win, we're trying to understand.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we've got communication,
Yeah.
we've got empathy. What else? What other dance moves do we need to master?
Well, I think empathy, it's closely linked to patience, which is another key step in this whole process. Compromise, it rarely happens overnight. It often involves a lot of back and forth, trying different approaches, being flexible enough to adjust your course along the way.
So it's more like a winding road trip than a straight shot on the highway. You might encounter some detours, maybe even have to turn around a few times, but the journey itself, that could be part of the fun.
I love that analogy. And speaking of road trips, think about those times when, you and your partner are trying to decide on a destination. Sometimes you find yourselves drawn to completely different places, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It happens all the time. Like one of you wants to go to the beach, the other one wants to go hiking in the mountains.
Right, exactly. So how do you navigate that?
Well, you could dig in your heels and insist on your chosen destination, but that wouldn't be very fun for anyone, would it?
No, not at all.
A better approach, I think, is to look at a map together, talk about what each of you is hoping to get out of the trip and see if there's a way to maybe, combine those desires, or maybe find a destination that offers a little something for both of you.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great example of how those skills of compromise can be applied to so many areas of life, not just those big life decisions.
It's about finding that common ground, right? Those shared interests, those points of overlap, that can bring you closer together, even when you seem to be miles apart on the surface.
Absolutely. That's it, exactly.
It's about focusing on what unites you rather than what divides you.
Yes. Yeah.
And it seems like that principle, it applies, not just to romantic relationships, but to friendships, to family dynamics, even the workplace.
Oh, absolutely. Compromise is like that universal language that helps us bridge those gaps between people.
Yeah.
To create understanding, to build stronger connections. It's so important.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of communication, empathy, patience, and finding that common ground.
Yeah.
But earlier, we were talking about the different types of compromise. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned 4: distributive, avoidance, integrative, and transformative. Can you break those down a little bit more for us? Help us understand how they actually play out in a relationship.
Sure. So distributive compromise, that's the most basic kind, I guess you could say. It's about splitting the difference, finding that middle ground.
Okay, splitting the difference. Got it.
Think of it like dividing a piece of cake. You each get an equal slice. Okay, right? It's a practical approach for those everyday decisions. But it doesn't always address the underlying needs or desires.
Right. It might solve the immediate problem, but it might not leave everyone feeling, totally satisfied.
Right. And then there's avoidance compromise. We touched on that earlier, but can you remind me, what's that one again?
Oh yeah. Avoidance compromise it's when one person consistently gives in just to avoid conflict.
Right. It might seem like the easy way out in the moment, but over time it can breed resentment, and create an imbalance in the relationship.
Yeah. It's like one person always driving, even when they're like exhausted, just to avoid an argument about who takes the wheel.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. It really highlights the potential long-term consequences of that pattern.
So those are the kind of the less healthy approaches.
Right.
What about the more positive ones? What does integrative compromise look like?
Okay, so integrative compromise is where things start to get really interesting, because it's about moving beyond that simple split the difference mentality and searching for a solution that truly satisfies both parties to the highest degree possible.
Ooh, so it's not about just meeting in the middle. It's about finding a solution that actually works really well for both people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like baking a cake together. You know, you're experimenting with different ingredients, different flavors until you create something that you both absolutely love.
So it's about collaboration, creativity, and a willingness to go beyond your initial assumptions
Yeah.
to find that win-win solution, right?
Yeah, you got it. It's about recognizing that sometimes the best solutions, they aren't the most obvious ones. And that working together, brainstorming ideas, being open to different perspective, it can lead to something even better than either of you could have imagined on your own.
Okay, and last but not least, the most intriguing of them all, transformative compromise.
Yeah.
What makes this type of compromise so special?
Okay, so transformative compromise, it goes beyond simply finding a solution to the immediate problem. It's about using that challenge as an opportunity for growth, both individually and as a couple.
Okay, so we're not just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, we're actually using it as a chance to learn and evolve.
Exactly. It's about digging deeper, understanding those underlying needs and values that are driving the conflict, and finding a way to shift the dynamics of the relationship in a way that benefits both partners.
So it's not just about resolving the conflict, it's about using that conflict as a catalyst for positive change.
Yes, exactly. It's like taking that road trip, you know, and discovering a hidden gem along the way, a place you never would have found if you hadn't been willing to detour from your original plan. It's about embracing those unexpected turns as opportunities for adventure and growth.
Transformative compromise. It sounds almost magical. You know, like you're turning those relationship challenges into fuel for growth and deeper connection.
Yeah. Yeah, it really can be. And you know, it's fascinating. It's like while we've been focusing on romantic relationships, these principles of compromise, they apply to so many other areas of life as well.
Oh, for sure. Like even just now, we were talking about road trips, but I can see how compromise plays a role in, you know, friendships, family dynamics, even in the workplace.
Absolutely. Like, think about politics, for example. When compromise breaks down in the political arena, we see gridlock, we see polarization, a real inability to address those critical issues facing our communities in the world, you know?
It's like everyone's stuck in their own lane, refusing to budge, and the whole system just grinds to a halt.
Exactly. But when we embrace compromise, you know, when we're willing to listen to different perspectives, to find that common ground, we create the possibility for progress, for innovation, for positive change.
So it seems like this ability to compromise or the lack thereof, it can have this ripple effect, right? Impacting not just our personal relationships, but society as a whole.
I think so, yeah. And it makes you wonder, you know, what would happen if we all approached our interactions with our partners, our families, our colleagues, you know, even those we disagree with a more conscious commitment to compromise.
That's a powerful thought. It kind of shifts compromise from this individual skill, this thing we do in our relationships, to something that could potentially transform, you know, our communities, even the world around us.
It really does. And, you know, it brings to mind another interesting aspect of compromise, that internal negotiation that we often have with ourselves.
So I like that, the internal negotiation. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about your own personal goals, your aspirations. Sometimes achieving those goals, it requires a certain degree of compromise, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Like if you're trying to, I don't know, get in shape, you might need to compromise on some of those late night snacks, or make time for exercise, even when you'd rather be, you know, just chilling on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're pursuing a demanding career, you might need to compromise on leisure time, or adjust your social life to create space for those professional pursuits.
Right. So it's about finding that balance between what we want and what we're willing to do, to give, to adjust in order to achieve those goals.
That's it, exactly. It's about recognizing that we can't always have it all, and that sometimes making those conscious choices, those compromises, it can actually lead us to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
This entire deep dive has been so eye-opening. It's like we peeled back the layers of this seemingly simple concept, you know, compromise. And we've discovered this whole universe of complexity and nuance and possibility.
I'm so glad to hear that. And, as we wrap up, I'd like to come back to our listener. Who's facing those big decisions with their partner?
Yeah, let's bring it all home. What's the most important message we want to leave them with?
I think the key takeaway is this: compromise. When done well, it's not about losing yourself or sacrificing your happiness. It's about finding that sweet spot, that creative solution that allows both you and your partner to thrive, both individually and as a couple.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that you're on the same team. You're navigating this journey together, and it's sometimes those detours and unexpected turns that can actually lead to the most amazing destinations.
Beautifully said. And remember, mastering the art of compromise, it takes practice. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
But it's a skill worth developing.
Absolutely. So as you embark on those big decisions, those crossroads in your relationship, remember to communicate openly, listen with empathy, and approach those challenges with a spirit of collaboration and a dash of creativity.
And who knows, you might just discover that compromise, far from being a burden, it's actually the secret ingredient to a happier, more fulfilling, and more adventurous relationship.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.